All right, what up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing an interview video. And Arlo, do you want to introduce our guest for today's video?
Yeah, this is I believe it's our first professional flatland rider that we've had on our interviews. And
Pete doesn't count as flatland.
Pete,
Augustine.
no, Pete Street.
Okay.
Pete is Street. Pete is Street.
Okay. Sorry. Continue.
No, I was just thinking Pete is Street. That's funny. Anyways, yeah, this is our first interview with Joe Sickman.
Yeah, we did do Joe.
Joe Sickman was the first, probably. So I'm not going to go that way. But the guy that is going to be on here in a second is, man, don't get depressed when you watch him ride. He's really smooth. He doesn't make mistakes, and he doesn't run breaks. And it's horrible to watch him because it just makes you feel like crap.
Yeah.
But man, it's beautiful to watch him ride. I will say that he's so smooth. Does his spins really nice. He's got such a cool style to it. And the amazing thing is that he is a professional ground rider, and he's turning 52 in April. So
he's actually ready to join. So if you want to wrap this up real quick, should we say who it is or just?
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce right now James McGraw.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
What's up, bud?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Just waking up, getting the day going.
I was out riding a little bit, and I'm like, man, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I woke up because I thought it was going to be 9 o'clock my time, and I'm like, oh shit, it's 9 o'clock Pacific.
You're in Colorado, right?
Yeah, so we're 1 hour different.
Okay.
For sure.
Do you wake up tired?
Yeah.
Like, you feel your age?
Oh yeah. When the mornings, fuck yeah. It's brutal. I mean, I have to take my kids to school because I don't like them to ride the bus. So it's like I get up and I'm a zombie. I can't ride my bike in the mornings. Like everybody's all about early morning sessions, and it does not work for me.
Yeah.
I have to work most of the day, and then I'm like warmed up to be able to ride my bike. So I'm a night rider.
Yeah. I totally agree. I made fun of what's Bill? I mean, Joe
Sickman.
No, Joe from
This-
Hawk.
Oh, Joe Hawk.
Joe Hawk, yeah. Soon to be my brother-in-law. I should have known that. Anyways, he told me he gets up at 3:30 in the morning to walk the dogs. I'm like, what are you doing? And I would tease him about it, right? And like 2 months later, I started waking up at 3:30. And now I can't sleep past 3:30. If I hit 4 o'clock, I'm doing good. So I go out and ride early because I know in the afternoon I'm a mess,
Yeah.
But
That's crazy though, man. Mornings are brutal. I hear everyone's doing it. I've tried it. I went last year. I tried to do like early morning sessions. They were the worst sessions of my life.
yeah,
Sucked.
yeah.
It's
I
like,
know. I used to ride afternoons only, but I was getting up at noon. My friends would come over. But anyways,
We have a quick question. Are you in your garage right now where you film all your videos?
I'm in my print shop. My garage is next door. I can easily go over there.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just thought maybe you were in there, but did you?
No, we're open right now. So it's work time, so my guys are working. So I usually don't get to ride my shop till 3 o'clock on Saturdays or after 5 o'clock on the weekdays.
Yeah, for sure. So you're running a print shop.
Well, this is the print shop side of it. And then I have the window tint and stuff over next door.
Very cool.
So window tinting is your main thing, or are you doing wraps or?
Yeah, I'm a rapper now.
Oh, really?
No, I started as car audio and window tint in '96, and then basically car audio tanked or early 2000s with the internet and Crutchfield, and then I stuck with tint, and I've been doing tint forever. But I was doing vinyl installs for people, and then in the last 6-7 years, the vinyl industry has just gone psychotic.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And now we're doing a lot of wraps. And the cool thing is, here, I'll walk next door and show you the one I'm on right now.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
wraps are kind of big ticket. So, you don't do as many, but you make a shit ton more money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nice, but like right now I'm doing an ice cream truck.
Oh,
And
that's sick.
yeah,
Is it a real ice cream truck or is it like lowered? Big
Oh,
motor. Oh yeah, just
here's the side of it. And
oh wow.
that's, it's pretty huge. And then
yeah.
side, we're still working on it, so we only got this far, but this thing was a piece of shit. We got it. And so, that's kind of what we do, but this has been here for a while, it's got a couple weeks on it because it's so big and we had to do some body work and straighten it out. And I do a lot of that shit just because I'm stupid and I volunteer for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Take jobs sometimes. You're like, well, I'm going to see what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, if we're on a big job, I used to stress, and I got to get it done today. I told him today. And now I tell him, if we get tired, I just tell him like, I can't finish this today. It's too big. We'll have to come back tomorrow.
I tell people, I will not
quality.
sacrifice quality just to get the job done. So if you're going to rush me, I'm not your guy. Go to the other guys.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have been in business so long that you're at the point you can tell people that, I don't have to stress about getting every fucking job.
Right. Yes.
So that's the
I
big
totally
thing.
agree, man. It's a gift to be in that position.
It is. It really is. And I've got a great reputation in this town, and I perform a lot in town. So everyone knows me as the crazy bike guy with all the crazy cars that has the tin shop. So it's like
you perform in town.
a lot. I'm friends with the guy who owns all the bars in town. So I performed a lot with him. We have the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, and I performed a Fan Fest. So Fan Fest has like 30,000 people downtown, and I've been performing for it for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So they have the Red Bull motocross guys jumping over me, and I'm doing flatland underneath them.
Nice.
That is sick.
And I do a lot of the parades and shit like that. So it's well known about me in this town as far as flatland goes.
Yeah. So they paved Pikes Peak, right?
Yes. Yeah. Now it's not the same as it used to be.
Yeah. Does it suck now?
It's beautiful to go up there, but it's not a challenge to drive it like it used to be,
Yeah.
It used to be people were dying on that every year during the races. Now it's like they're not dying because the roads aren't gravel and you're not edging yourself, like you would have in the past. It's a lot safer in that aspect. It's still dangerous because they're pushing higher speeds.
Yeah.
But they're also doing the all-wheel electrics that are really pushing the speeds. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's lost a little of its flair to me as far as I'm concerned. I like the thought of if you can't die doing it, it's not fun.
Yeah. I know that risk. Plus the sliding, seeing them drift around that corner. Oh, I love that,
So what?
It used to be pretty scary watching them. And I've been there when people have gone off the edge and it sucks, bro.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So, but it's still a really cool race and it draws a shit ton of people to this town.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
What is a car race?
It's a car race up this mountain. It's super. It's way famous.
It's the biggest race for the highest altitude. This is the highest paved road. So it's 14,110 feet.
Oh shit.
And it used to be like breaking 10 minutes was impossible to get from the bottom to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as they finished the paving and electric cars came, now people are in the low nines.
Oh wow.
From bottom to top. It's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy. I know that. I didn't know about the people dying, but I got to admit, when they said they were paving it, I was pretty bummed out,
Yeah.
Because I just love the sliding and everything. But
You've watched
I
them.
did a big nose wheelie down that road now, though. So now it's cool.
yeah.
They had a thing. It was kind of funny, man. Matthias did a video and he claimed that he was the highest flatlander. And he did something at about 10,000 feet in the French Alps. And I'm like, no, I filmed the whole edit at 14-110.
Yeah.
I definitely win this battle, dude.
How do you feel being that high?
It's one of those things, like, obviously I'm acclimated to altitude. I live at 7,000.
Oh, okay.
But if you don't drink any caffeine and you drink strictly water, it doesn't affect me at all. I can go up there and I can ride and I'm completely fine. But I've had my friends, like with all the Battle in the Rockies stuff, I usually take people up Pikes Peak after the contest. And like Ephraim Catlow damn near passed out at the top,
Really?
And I've been up there and watched people pass out. Wow. They just walking from their car to the building and they drop because of the oxygen. So it affects everyone different, but obviously I live at altitude, so it doesn't affect me anymore.
You'll never see me up there because I won't go anywhere without caffeine, man. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting out of bed.
You just can't move. You just have to sit there.
Yeah. I forgot on your introduction that you are the owner of the AFA Freestyle Association now.
Yep.
And just so I understand, how many contests per year do you have?
Well, typically we have 3 events, and then we have Battle in the Rockies, which is the finale. So I typically do 4.
Okay.
There was one season that I did 5, but it was a little much. So I'm back to 4, Yeah. So 4 is where it's at. It looks like we're adding Texas in March. So we're going to have the Texas, we'll have the Michigan, we'll have the North Carolina, and then we'll have here Colorado for Battle in the Rockies.
And you're in your 8th year, right?
Yep.
Wow, that's cool. And this was an amazing statistic. Is it, you said the average age is 40, or that's the highest?
No, yeah, that's so basically like you got 20-year-old guys, but up, like Terry's in his, late 30s, Matt's in his late 30s, Art's pushing 40. And, so, I mean, we've got guys in that ballpark. And then there's this big giant gap with this old fart, which is me. So, Bill Nitschke gets involved and he's 50, but he's been out for the last 2 years because of his knee. He had reconstructive knee surgery, so he just hasn't recovered well.
Yeah.
So Dave Norrie was telling me that him and Bill were up for number 1 at a couple of years ago. Was that AFA contest?
Yeah, but that was for the old school class. It's not old school, it's old cool. And they pretty much tied and they had a runoff, and it was seriously one of the most epic runoffs of all time in the AFA history.
Really?
I mean, but yeah, that was a really cool thing. And then Bill and Dave both decided to go pro again. So that was also a big deal to have Dave Norrie go pro in the AFA again.
Right. So he competes with you then?
Yeah, he does. Yep.
Well, that's because if I ever competed, I gotta, what do I go in? Like
old school, man. Old school as shit. So, no, but I mean, Dave is, Dave's a badass. I mean, he's still got everything he's done dialed as shit.
Yes.
And it's all his, man. I mean, it's like, I don't always go with this, but Keith King once said when people were judging and complaining, like, oh, that's an old trick. Well, Keith King's like, a freaking hard trick's a hard trick. Get over it.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't see anyone doing what Dave does. Dave's not going to win, but Dave holds his own in the sense that Dave's a badass and his energy at 57 is incredible,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And he stuck with his originality. You know what I mean? He didn't try to conform, and I dig the hell out of that, man. I think that's so cool. And,
I'm a believer that if you stick with what you're good at and what you're doing, your natural style and, like, it's going to look a lot nicer.
Yeah.
The tricks are going to be better. I think when people try to, I want to learn what's trendy, they kind of alter from what they're good at, and it kind of screws up the whole side of it. I mean, you're better to do it yourself, your way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right. So, 4 contests a year. You're 52, right?
I'll be 52 in April.
In April. Pete
Yep.
and Pete Brandt, his birthday is what, 10 minutes after yours?
Like an hour.
An hour. Wow.
We're like an hour apart.
That's crazy.
And his son was also born on April 10th.
Oh,
No
wow.
way.
And his son's name is James.
Really? That's interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And so this was cool when we talked on the phone. You compete, but Brent,
Brand.
Brant. Pete Brant.
yeah, I'm gonna fade a lot out of horrible memory, but he just does shows.
Right. Okay. So Pete came to a couple AFAs and he's competed and he did amazing. I mean, he's a beast.
Yeah.
But he makes his living from doing shows. You know, I hate calling him a show writer because he could easily compete, but at the same time, he makes his living from doing shows. So he's more focused on the shows. But the times he's come to events, I mean, he's done well and he delivers every time. I mean, like the one thing he is he's consistent. You know, when he shows up, he's going to hit his shit.
You're too consistent. It's not fun watching you being a
The
shitty.
funny thing is, it's a big joke with everyone is, and Todd Carter's he's been my best friend since '86.
Yeah.
And I'm notorious for going to events, writing like shit in practice, stressing out, doing the whole routine of like, this is the time I'm not going to make it. And then I do a perfect run.
Yeah.
And in my 30 some years of competing, if I was to say, I don't know how many times I've competed, but if I was to say I competed 1,000 contests, I probably did 850 of them perfect runs. I just am notorious for under pressure delivery.
Yeah.
That's just my thing. I'm better under pressure.
That was my thing too, is that I could handle the pressure better. It didn't feel like it while I was writing, but the funny thing is you say you've done these perfect runs, meaning you didn't touch, right?
Right.
I mean, I competed for 2 or 3 years in the pro class before anybody did a perfect run, which a perfect run, that's questionable because I made it through without touching, but I definitely wasn't riding at my peak.
You didn't want what you wanted. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you gave up some, but I mean, touching a couple of times was common at the best pros in the world, and now you guys, in fact, that brings me into another thing. Do you think that has something to do with riding without brakes? The reason why I'm asking that, doing a perfect run, no brakes, is because, I'm starting to do a few tricks with no brakes and they seem to be the most consistent of my tricks.
I don't think that people do consistent runs a lot. That's not actually that common.
Okay, good.
I'm like a weirdo. But
Good. That's good.
I do think that brakes do help with consistency in the sense that you don't have a safety net. So you're training without that safety net. Like there's tricks I could do all day, every day with brakes, and I could save it if I'm falling and, there's ways to handle it. But without brakes, you don't have anywhere to go except, the ground. So I think you become more in tune with your bike. And in the end result is it becomes more consistent.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that extra advantage of being able to save the trick. You've got to either do it or don't do it. It's full commitment.
So I half agree with you, and you're definitely the expert on this because I don't know anything about it. But it seems this is what's come to my mind because I thought you guys were nuts for riding without brakes. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But when I try these tricks, the way the bike seems to move more naturally, there seems to be a certain amount of movement, or when the bike switches around, that instead of adding brakes into that thing, it's just you and the bike. You know what I mean? Right. And there's something there. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it feels really good. It feels really good.
It does. And it's nice to have the handlebars cleared, and you don't have things that you're going to stab yourself with. You know? I mean, ultimately in the end, it does feel a lot cleaner. But there's people like Dominic Nicoli or Terry Adams who have mastered the art of brakes to a point that the fluidity with it is incredible. With brakeless, you get a lot of fluidity. And a lot of the people who rode brakes weren't necessarily so fluid.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a diss. Art Thomas is one of my favorite people and great rider. But when he had brakes on, he used to be a little bit herky-jerky. His tricks were incredible, but there was a lot of hesitation and this.
Yeah.
He took off his brakes, and now it's like so beautiful to watch him ride.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people who can do, like Dominic and Terry can do these jumps and transitions, and they've got this natural preload that they put in that pushes everything out. So there's no hesitation in speed.
Yeah.
It maintains it. And it's phenomenal, but very few people can get that with brakes. So
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I'm right in the middle. I'm just kind of moving along, and I just wanted to see what it felt like, you know, what you guys were doing. And I'm definitely getting my taste of that. But, you know, the first time I saw you ride was Scotty Cranmer. That's his name?
yeah.
He corrects me if I'm a little bit off with somebody's name. I get corrected, so I always check.
That's my job, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I used to do radio, and I'd get people's names wrong, and I'd get so bitched out by the program director. He'd be like, "That's not his name. That's not how you say it."
Yeah. I'm like, hey, as long as I get close, you know what I mean? But anyways, he was at Dorkin in York, and I think you were there, right?
Yep.
Or the Plywood Hoods, whatever they call that event.
York Jam.
Yeah. And you rode, and I was like, God damn, that guy is smooth. And I'm like, you know, and then I'm making up excuses like, oh, it's probably just the perfect parking lot. It's flat.
No.
And then he goes, man, you're 51 and you're doing that. And I'm like, oh, man, you know, you're always looking for a little bit of slack, or I am. And then I met you at the old school thing.
Right.
And that surface was a little bit tilted, right?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to see how good this guy is. And you were just as smooth. I'm like, you're like going around fast. You weren't bobbling. You were spinning on an angled surface. And I was like, well, just got to say he's great. You know, the guy's good, man. There's no way to tear you down.
No, but you know, we first met at Albie's in like 85, 86 doing shows. I opened for you guys, me and Bill Newman.
Really?
Yep. I was part of Team Tasty. I was the original Albie's team.
Wow. No kidding.
I was riding the scooters, and I was doing probably 5-6 foot airs out on the quarter pipe. And you came up to me and you said, you're pretty good on that thing. And then I was like, oh my God, he talked to me. And then I got hooked up with Redline later on, right before you went to General. And I was like, as you saw those pictures I sent you, I was obsessed with it. You know, I mean, but yeah, I met you at a couple of AFAs too, because I made a point to try to get near you to talk.
And don't think it's me, man.
I know, I get it, bro. I don't remember half the people I met.
I can't remember what I was doing 5 minutes ago. So
now, see, that was my front yard, and that I built from the magazine things. It was like you hit the transitions are bumps, but I had the short shorts. And the cool thing about that bike right there is that's a Redline 500A. And I was obsessed with having a Redline, like as you can see by my ramp.
Yeah.
And I lived in Detroit, and I did 10 cents refunds. So I went to the Silver Dome, and I would collect the 10 cents cans after the games. And I bought my first Redline with returnables.
No way.
That's it.
Yep. And then what was funny is I didn't send the pictures of this, but my first ramp I ever built was a wedge ramp. And I mean, this is telling you how dumb I am. I was like 85, and I built this 8 foot tall, 8 foot wide wedge ramp, because all I heard was that guys are jumping off these 8 foot tall, 8 foot wide wedge or ramps. So I built a wedge, and I was launching off of it. I was getting killed.
Yeah.
And I ended up, you know, I bought this bike, and that newspaper covered me doing this. You know, and these kids in the area saw this, and they were like, you know, we got to find out who this guy is. So the bike shop that I bought my bike from had the newspaper article up, and they left their phone numbers, and were like, dude, you are doing this so freaking wrong. It's ridiculous. You know, like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. So long story short, they came and they told me what a real quarter pipe was. And I learned, oh, it's a quarter of a circle.
Oh.
And I built my ramp, and they're like, there's a contest at this bike shop called Albie's in 2 months. You know, you should go to that. I'm like, well, I don't even know tricks. So they showed me like cowboys and all these other tricks. I ended up winning the contest, and I got sponsored by Albie's.
No way.
And within 6 months of getting that bike, I had my first RL22, which was my dream bike.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. It was meant to be.
Yeah, that's funny. You've been around.
I've been around a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, a lot of these guys I talk to now, they have a lot of history. I mean, they've been riding in the 80s, you know, like you, and they just kept riding. Most guys rode all the way through, you know.
Yep. I mean, I competed in all the AFAs. I was one of the top experts for a while. It was like me and Perry and Huddleston and stuff were pretty much the top 3 18 over experts for quite a while.
Perry Murbar?
Yeah.
Man, what an insane rider.
Yeah, he was jazz hands from hell.
Yeah.
He was a stylish rider, man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he was man, he was good. He was so good. It was like I was watching a video of him ride, and I'm thinking, in fact, if you watch the guys ride back in the day, like you, me, and Perry, you can see where a lot of these tricks have come from. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the whole thing with no brakes and the spinning stuff you guys are doing is insane. And the level that you guys ride at is just, I could never even have dreamed of that. But I love to see how it's still connected, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely evolved. But I mean, it's kind of funny because I like to get into those battles where people want to play a game of bike. I'm like, you shouldn't play bike with me because I could do everything from old school, mid school, new school. You're kind of screwed from this one.
You know, I don't know if you noticed this, but like when I started riding, I'm like, okay, my plan was, all right, I'm going to do all my old stuff. I should have that down in a month. Then I'm going to start moving into the other stuff. And the old stuff, the old stuff is hard, man. I mean,
it takes so much energy.
Oh my God. They're not easy tricks, you know?
No, they're not actually.
I do a lot of my old tricks, but
I got a quick question.
The thing that's crazy is like this whole Japanese takeover that we have going on in Flatland. It's kind of crazy because, you know, these kids are learning bike flips and pedal tricks that like are in my new video that are tricks I've spent years working on. And they're like 14-year-old kids, but I've always attributed it to the 4-minute mile scenario, you know, until someone broke the 4-minute mile, it was impossible. But now that someone's done it, everyone's doing it.
Right.
And it's like they don't even they can't do the basics. Like they couldn't do a no-handed or no-footed hang 5, like a hang nothing. They can't do a straight Carl cruiser, but they can do a bike flip to a pedal pivot, you know. Yeah. Like it's so crazy. They've missed some of these foundation tricks that truthfully they're so damn hard, it's ridiculous. Like sitting there doing pinky squeaks, you know, we used to have days where we try to do 50, 60 pinky squeaks. And it's like you were in such good shape. It was like you were running on your bike for 3-minute combos.
Yeah. I hate scuffing my tire, man. My legs like, no, just learn how to roll around. Don't hit that tire, man.
Yeah.
It's so tiring, you know, and you're like doing, it's just too much.
Yeah, it's definitely, there was a lot more, like, I think it took more energy to do the tricks back in the day than it does now.
Yeah.
And some of those, like, apple crates and backwards decades and all that stuff, that shit was dangerous.
Yeah.
like, I got jacked doing some of those tricks where it's like, nowadays, you know, you can get away from the bike.
You know, I can't remember his name, Knox. The guy that rides he has a concrete backyard and he does everything real fast and connected. But he showed a video of him when he's like, I think he's in his 40s. I wish I could remember his name. But he did a backwards decade without brakes.
Yeah, that's psycho.
That is like, I watched that and I'm like, man, I just kind of put it out of my head. I'm like, oh, that's
yeah, I used to do the dump trucks, scuffing, and then do the backwards decade with brakes, but without brakes is psychotic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
I had
and there's like
the bike.
they're doing quadruple brakeless decades in Japan, or triples at least. I mean, John Yule did the quadruple, and there's like, it's crazy what people are doing brakeless with decades.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane. You were going to ask something.
Oh
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So you got this massive ramp in the front yard. How are the neighbors about that? How'd they feel about that?
I was like the neighborhood, person to talk about. Everybody loved it. And I was on the corner of that intersection in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody knew you got to dodge that kid because he's always riding his bike in the street.
Yeah.
And, the ramp was kind of this big joke that you come to the intersection and all of a sudden you see this kid fly above it a couple of feet and then he's gone. And, yeah, my neighbors loved it. They thought it was pretty cool.
Let's see. Is
That one.
Look at your tire, how flat it is.
I know, dude. Those were Odyssey barefoot tires.
They're what? Odyssey what?
Barefoots?
Oh.
Yep.
What's
Yeah, that was
around
Mike
your
Caruso
seat
took
post?
that picture.
What's that thing around your seat post?
That was that like vacuum hose thing. That got really popular in like early 87.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's like what George has on his bike.
It
I was
sucks for
thinking about-
decades if your foot would roll.
I was thinking about having something like that would be a pad because a lot of people have been hitting me up to learn Miami hoppers. And I just know I'm going to slip off the pedal. My nuts are going to hit right on that seat post. So I was thinking, man, maybe he's padding it for the Miami hopper.
Yeah.
Dude, those bikes were so big, dude. I couldn't get behind that seat if I wanted to.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, that's Ohio right there with the backwards bar ride. That was like 87.
Wasn't there somebody, I think it was Joe Sickman or Sisman. What is it?
I don't even know.
Just correct
anymore.
me.
It's too confusing.
Yeah. He's like, he's like, no, he's like, punishing me. And then someone else called him what I was calling him, so I'm going to go with Sisman.
You don't even.
But he said there was a thing about who came up with the backwards bar.
Yeah, I know. He made this into a big drama.
And I told him,
know.
I have no idea. I go, I started doing it. I had not seen anybody. I just started doing it. It made more sense to me.
Right.
Hopping up onto the bars from the front did not sound like a good idea. So I went backwards and then he was like, no, James said he was the first one to do it. So, and I don't care.
I don't know if it's right or wrong. What I know is if we were at the same contest and we both did it, I was expert. So I did it in the contest before you. I don't know if I did it before you or not,
Right. Well,
It's the only reason I would have any way to say I did it before you is because of a contest setting. I was expert.
Right. Well, just so you know, I have pictures of me at my grandma's house when I was 3 and I was doing
Okay.
it.
Well,
So-
I was on the Ed Sullivan show in 1963.
All right. So I got some questions here. Do you have a question?
Not right now. No.
Okay. What are the age groups of I'm sorry, I haven't even had time to look at this. We had a lot of the same sponsors, right? Diacomp, Redline,
Yep.
Mara, Vision.
Yeah, I had Oakley from Albies. They got me hooked up with Oakley. Like I had my frog skins.
Yeah,
I was all about it, man.
right on.
I won every AFA scooter contest that they had.
I didn't even know there was a scooter contest. I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know
they did
that
it
was going
for-
on.
They did it for a year and a half. I won all the AFA Masters. And then at Ohio in, I think it was 88, they stopped doing it. And Randy Loop had me do a demo between expert and pro. And I did a demo and I did a 540, like 5 feet out on my scooter on those ramps.
Wow.
Are you still riding scooters?
No,
No.
but I do have this right there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's that CW Noped.
Right.
Yeah, but I was the Kuahara Waldo, that blue scooter that was in the magazines back in the day. That was my actual scooter.
Wow. I thought, man, I mean, I've only been back into this a year or so, but I thought Ryan Williams was like, that he
Well,
just
he's a scooter king now.
yeah. I mean, the stuff he was doing, I figured, man, that must have been the guy that brought in scooters. I didn't even know I mean, I remember, I think I had a CW 20-inch scooter.
Yeah.
20-inch wheels on it.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't remember anybody, doing 5-foot airs or 540s.
What was crazy is I had this, I had custom made array of rims with bullseye hubs. And then I would take the Odyssey barefoot tire. I would take 3 inner tubes, cut them open and wrap them around my inner tube. And then I would take 10-speed glue and I would like the tire glue and I would glue the tire to the rims and I could get like 80 to 90 PSI
Wow.
on my 12-inch rims. And that's why I was able to blast higher than anyone because I had pressure,
I always
So
wondered about that. If you could make, because I was thinking about building something with a fat tire, a real thin, low profile, a chopper. But
Would you take these on dirt jumps?
oh yeah, I mean, I did 720s over dirt jumps.
Wow.
Here in Colorado, we have Troy McMurray and Duncan Gore and all those guys. And I used to go up to Denver and we had the place we called the V, which was like this big jump that had probably like a 15-foot gap between it. It was like a valley. And I used to do like 720s. I've done flips. I've done all kinds of shit on the scooters.
wow.
But they break constantly.
Really?
And I'm just a flatlander. I got into cross and jumping those and all that shit. And I'm like, I'm done with scooters. They're just they're not cool anymore.
Yeah.
So
Cool, man. I didn't even know. Look at that, man.
That's sick.
Damn. I had no idea.
yep. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I still got all my here. You'll love this. Let me go over here. You'll recognize these since you're from that time.
I'll tell you this, those bigger tires make so much more sense than the little ones that they run
Oh.
now.
Hate
Those-
that shit.
Yeah, man. I'm just like, no way.
Here you go. That's AFA first place. That's the Austin, Texas one.
Oh, really?
Yep.
What class?
That was scooters.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I've got a bunch of those, man. They had the sweet trophies back in the day. Now we got shit.
Yeah, right.
But here's another. That one's like 1987. That's another. That might be Austin as well. The previous year, but there's all kinds of them.
Wow.
I've got all kinds of. I have like hundreds of AFA trophies. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I kept some because they were cool. They
Yeah.
had meaning.
Mine just started deteriorating and hauling them around all the time. Every time we moved, and I was like, man, I just threw them all away.
Yeah, I got half of them are in my parents' basement, and the other half are, stuff that I thought was important. Significant
Yeah.
events that I wanted to keep.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Like I turned pro at the War of the Stars contest in Jersey in '89. That crazy train wreck of a contest, and that I got third place there. So that was like my first pro contest, and I got third.
Nice.
Newman won.
Yeah.
Bill Newman. So
Yeah.
but that's who I grew up riding with was Bill.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So where are you from originally?
Detroit.
Okay.
Wait, I got to check to make sure.
Is that him on the wall right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is ridiculously smooth, isn't he?
Yeah, he's stupid. Him and Andrew Arroyo are the two smoothest riders of all time, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree, man.
They
I
can
used to
blow.
watch Ryan and just go. And then I saw not a recent video, it was a couple years ago. He's even smoother. His bike doesn't even shake,
Yeah, he's like, he got divorced. He got back into riding. He started
That's how it goes, right?
relearned all his tricks, and then he's kind of mellowed back out again.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that spot he's riding in is where I hold the contest in Detroit. It's this guy, George, who owns a place called Modern Skate and Surf. And that's like when I go home to Detroit to visit my parents, that's my riding spot there because my friend owns that skate park.
Oh, nice.
When Bill got back into it, he got hooked up with them because, I introduced him and it's pretty cool, but he doesn't go there anymore.
Yeah.
Did you say
He hasn't been
skate and
riding.
surf?
Say what?
Did you say it's skate and surf in Detroit?
Yeah, that's what he calls it.
Oh, I was gonna say, is there
No.
surf in there?
Yeah, there ain't no surfing.
Yeah. I mean, they surf
It's snowboard, so it's snow surfing.
I see.
Ah,
I was gonna say that they do that like lake surfing sometimes out there, don't they? On Michigan?
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of shit we do. Like summertime in Detroit's great.
Yeah.
Rest of the time sucks ass, but summertime's beautiful.
yeah.
You know.
I want to try those snow bikes.
Yeah, those look
Yeah, I know. I was just up yesterday skiing or snowboarding, but I more and more they're showing up, and I'm like, I've got to just do it. Obviously, I
Yeah.
could do it.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, I got to try this.
Have you heard of this guy, Scott Powell? He's an older rider or a guy who's older. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's insane, huh?
he is an incredibly talented rider.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an interesting person.
Oh, really? Yeah.
A lot of strong opinions, but yeah, Scott is definitely well versed. He's been around forever. He's
Really?
one of the Ohio guys that used to compete at all the stuff. You know, back being Detroit, Randy Loop was holding AFA contests every weekend, or you know, other shops in Ohio. So between Albies and there, we were competing every weekend. So this is a guy I grew up around.
Hmm.
Chase lived with him for a while, and Chase told him he's the third best there is, so he has hung on to that. And you know,
I'm learning
I mean,
to read your facial expressions and what they mean.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. but he is an incredible rider. He's
Yeah.
got a lot of depth. I message him, you know, videos, and he messages me videos all the time.
That's cool.
Definitely. One of the fun things about Scott is like we challenge each other with stupid shit, like the unicycle bikes.
Hmm.
You know, and then he's got the Nimbus wheel, which is that wheel that it's not a crank on the axle, it's a crank on the rim. Like you weld a bar through the middle of a wheel and you put a pedal here and a pedal here, and you got to ride it like a unicycle. Well, the tire naturally falls to your leg. So it's like this fine balance point.
yeah.
And I have one and he has one, and we challenge each other on that. And I mean, he's definitely an insane talent, but he's also a very strong opinion person.
Yeah.
I mainly see him online, or I started following him just because he's doing that freestyle stuff on big bikes, which was really cool.
Yeah, he does on the big bikes. One of the funniest things, and I'll have to send you the link. A few years ago, he did a thing where he was doing the decade guru.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because he can do some incredible decades, no doubt. And he did all these decades, and he did 30 of them, 30 videos. And he started off with like these monks praying and all this shit. You know? So like it was kind of, you know, a weird way to say it, you know, like I'm the guru.
Yeah.
So me and Bill Nitschke decided to make a video to mock him.
Yeah.
And we did the what do you call it? Eddie Murphy's movie with the I Want the Knife and all that shit.
I watched your video of that the other day.
I
Yeah.
want the knife.
Yeah, it's the Golden Child. The Golden Child with Eddie
Oh,
Murphy.
yeah.
So when he walks in the room and he sees all the monks and he's like, scratches the thing, I want the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Sisman voiceover, I want the decade.
Yeah.
And then we did these stupid videos, so we totally mocked them. And it was hysterical.
Funny.
But yeah, I mean, he's good people. He's just got a strong opinion.
Yeah.
So Chase did 4 decades, didn't he?
Chase has done a shit ton. I grew up with Chase. Me and Bill grew up with Chase. That's what most people forget. He's from Windsor. So every Friday he would come over to my house and we would ride the 1.5 miles over to Bill's place and we would ride together.
Right.
And then around 87, 88, I can't remember exactly when, is when he moved to York and everything changed.
Yeah.
But up till then, he was just the average local kid who was a complete psycho.
So how many decades? What is he doing?
He wasn't so big on them then. He was probably, I know he's done 4, but I don't know about anything beyond that.
This is my big question, right? When you're spinning, when you guys are doing those, like you're on your front peg, you got the bike laid over and you're spinning, you got your foot kind of over the front tire. How do you balance? how can your mind react that fast to a balance mistake if you're spinning
There's
that
an
fast?
access point. There's literally an access point that when you lock it, you can just stay there.
Okay.
There's nothing to it. The problem is everybody stands too upright, or they don't center their body weight evenly over the axis. And, you got front or back weight. It's a fine balance point, dead smack in the middle. And everyone is always fighting for that point. When you find that point, it's easy as shit.
So is that the axle? Are you talking about your weight straight over the axle?
I'm talking about weight displacement. Okay. Because obviously your torso weighs a shit ton more than your legs.
Right.
So if you are standing there, you've got to kind of in your head imagine what your body weight is. Obviously your leg can compensate, but in order to do a trick without movement and looking like you're humping the air, you got to find that center balance point. So it's got a lot to do with how you position your body.
Yeah.
If you lean over too far forward, you got more weight in front of the axis, it ain't going to balance.
Yeah.
So you got to, this is my view on it, at least, and I've taught people and it works, but it's about finding your center of balance in a straight up and down axis so that you have your weight displaced evenly front and back, so you can find that center balance.
Because I was thinking, man, there's got to be a little magic going on there. There's something, because there's no way they can spin that fast and make the correction, but there has to be like a balance point or a rhythm or something that you guys get in where it just, and I've tapped into that like twice, where the bike, it almost freaked me out because the bike just started. It
picks up speed. And that's the other thing.
And
people are like, how the hell did you just go from 1 mile an hour to 10? And you're like,
and you're doing circles and you're like, I'm not even balanced. I'm not even involved,
Yep.
But, very few times finding that is very difficult. But I've always wondered about that, because it's incredible how fast you guys spin. It's incredible how fast you spin, come out of it and go into another spinning trick. I mean, I do like 2 360s and I'm like, I got to wait for my head to unwind and then go back.
I find that, it's kind of like I hate to say it, but it's kind of like figure skaters or whatever. I have that focal point and I just don't get dizzy.
Yeah.
Like me and Matt Wilhelm were kind of known as the American guys who could spin really good, and it's about finding that focal point, and it doesn't bother me. I know guys that I have a friend who can't even do a spinning trick because he's got an equilibrium issue and he'll literally collapse if he spins.
So are you saying all your life, like even when you were young and you were spinning around, you never got dizzy, or you got used to it?
I've never gotten dizzy.
Really?
It's just maybe my luck, I guess, that I was able to be one of the people who can do it.
So there's no hope for me then, right? That's what you're saying. If I'm getting dizzy on 2 360s, I'm in trouble, right?
If you get dizzy after 2 360s, it might not be the direction you want to pick.
That's why I told him I'd go around the room the opposite way, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm unwinding."
Yeah, what the hell?
It's awesome.
Got it.
Yeah, a lot of people crack on me because if you look at when I ride, I'm never looking.
What are you doing?
I'm looking ahead of me, and people think I'm on crack. Like it's been a big thing that I get mocked on, but that's kind of part of my focal balance point stuff. Is I always look out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a really bizarre thing, I guess.
You don't look down, you look out.
I look out.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Okay. I'm learning so much about you guys that ride with no brakes, trying to learn those tricks. I'm just learning. It's giving me such a huge respect for what you guys do, because I'm noticing all the little details that are involved in being able to pull something like that off.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like one of the biggest things I think that comes with, some of the modern tricks is the whole point on where you stand on the peg. Because like we've always learned, and this was the hardest thing for me to unlearn, is to have my foot up against the frame and I'm doing a trick rolling or whatever. And I've got a lot more stability because my whole foot's on the peg. If you look at my tricks now, I'm pretty much standing on my toes on the outside edge of the peg. And that's so that I can pivot my foot around. You know, that took me over 6 months to relearn standing on the outside of the peg from the time that I was on the inside. But once I developed that muscle strength and the technique, it opened the whole world to a new set of tricks.
Yeah. Any specific exercise routines or training in order
No,
to cope with that?
I don't believe in stretching. I don't believe in any of that bullshit.
Really?
I freaking ride my damn bike. I get on it. I do a couple peg wheelies. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. And I just jump right into it. Everybody stretches. Matt Wilhelm was here for Battle in the Rockies. I swear to God, he stretched for over an hour.
No.
I'm like, dude, your session's done. What are you doing?
Yeah, that don't work. Never stretching has never done anything for me.
No, it doesn't do anything for me. I ride, and you know, as long as I have noticed over the years, if I go out and have a couple beers or I have some drinks, the next day my back might hurt. If I don't, I never have pain.
Yeah.
So hydration is obviously a big part of it, but outside of that, I don't worry about it. I eat what the hell I want and I do what I want. I don't exercise. Bike riding's my exercise.
Yeah, and that's good. It's plenty. We're
All
pulling
right.
up a video.
This
here.
is one of the video, or this is the video you'd sent RL on Messenger.
Yeah, this is my baby.
Wait, hold on.
Better
Can you pause it?
days. Yeah.
Is that a Ford pickup?
That is a Ford Ranchero, 1960.
Wow.
And the other car behind it is my 59 Fairlane.
Nice.
And then I have that 63 Lincoln Continental. And then I have a 64 Econoline pickup.
The Continental that have the suicide doors.
Yep. Yeah, that car's won every show it's ever attended.
Yeah.
And I've taken it nationally on that car.
Wow. That's cool. All right, go ahead.
That's the garage.
There's our stubble ducks from the 80s. This is mine right here. This pedal pivot,
Uh-huh.
that's all me.
Wow.
On the pedal. That's freaky. Over the frame too.
Yep. And see, like, this right here is just an impossible bike. That when you slow it down, you really see how high I jump.
So I said 10-foot dome. Is that like Terradome?
Yeah. Me and Joe have been friends a long time.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for that guy.
Joe Sisman or
Yeah.
Sickman?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I make sure as soon as he pulls up, I watch him.
This is one of my original tricks from the early 2000s. They called it a McBlender, but it's a dump truck, death truck. This is one of the things I hate is people don't recognize my combos. This is a walk around. I don't do it the way
Wow,
the
that
Japanese
is
guys
cool.
are doing it. I step from one side to the other, and then I come out on the other side. So it's actually a legitimate bike walk around.
See, that happens so you got to do some slow motion, man. You got to, because some things happen so fast. You
Yeah,
can't even understand it, you know?
that trick was hard.
Yeah.
And then this is another one of these that it's kind of my own thing. But this is a thing I just learned, so it was something I decided to do that's different than what I normally do. But the turbines are kind of my thing to spin. And it's kind of like a half pike toss ride out here.
Yeah.
See, I just kind of toss the ride out. And it does, it happens so quick.
The way you push your bars around your body, man, you make it look like nothing.
Now this trick
It's hard.
is crazy because I don't think anyone caught. I'm on the pedal one-handed downside. My hand's backwards, and I essentially do like a gut lever to hold it. That right there isn't a long roll, but that's hella hard. The rest of it's whatever, but that one hand is like stupid hard.
That just blows my mind.
And then this is my favorite ride out.
On the pedals, man, that looks so cool.
This took 2.5 years to pull. I've been working on this concept of that pedal pivot to pedal death truck.
Okay, hold up. Pause this right there. Okay, so you're spinning and you're pedaling, right? And you
Right.
don't have any brakes, so you can't pedal against your brakes, right? So
Right, yep.
so you're pedaling and you're just keeping tension. You're making sure not to go back. You're just pedaling to keep tension on the pedal.
Essentially, yeah, I can glide it like a manual up there as well in a straight. When I'm outdoors, I can glide it. Indoors, it's so tight you can't.
Wow.
But the thing about this is, people do the pedal time machines where they step up, but your foot's all the way in on the pedal. In order to do what I'm doing, you have to put your foot on the outside of the pedal when you step up, and it's a blind step. So that's super hard in itself.
Yeah.
I turbine it, and as I'm going backwards, I pivot and I turn my body to essentially a junkyard on the pedal. And then I pivot it back to the time machine. Now that took me years to learn.
Wait,
But
so
to do the pedal
right, when you're pedaling, you got tension on the pedals
at all times, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
are you just kind of spinning to make it look like you're pedaling?
No, I'm pedaling. But then to do it to the pedaling death truck was like my dream idea, and I finally made it happen.
Yeah.
But I used to do pedal death trucks all over town. I filmed videos going through fields, up hills, over ramps. I've done pedal death trucks since the early 2000s.
Okay, so here's the real question. When you film this, and you're making all these tricks, was there a lot of times when you were touching on the ground or you didn't make the trick, or did it just all come first time?
2.5 years to pull this combo.
No, I mean in the video.
Oh yeah, it took a while. This ain't a first try at all.
Okay. So these are highlights.
Yeah, here's the way to look at it. That trick, the pedal pivot itself, without the unicycle trick, the pedal death truck, just doing the pivots and then just spinning and dropping out, used to be 4 or 5 times a day I could hit it.
Wow.
By the time I got the pedal death truck part of it, I was up to 60 times a day I could hit that trick.
Yeah.
So I definitely evolved on my ability for the trick. And then I started working pedal death trucks again because I stopped doing them for a while. And I started working them again, and I'm back to 100% on those. So once I got back to 100% on those, and I started trying it with the pedal pivot into it, it took maybe an hour. But ultimately, it's there now. Now I can do it.
And I'm not trying to disrespect your thing. I'm just looking for a way for me to be able to accept that somebody can actually do this stuff. And that I just want to know that there's a little bit of, you don't do it every single time. It makes me feel better,
Yeah, it takes hours and hours. I mean, like I said, I spent 2.5 years to learn that pedal pivot. That pivot itself was a living nightmare. Probably the worst. My ankles were hurting. I almost gave up on it. I'm like, my body can't take it. I'm too old. It beat the shit out of me. And then finally I overcame it.
When you say 2.5 years, like how many hours a day, how many days a week are you riding, would you say?
I ride every day.
Every day. Nice.
So how many hours a day do you practice?
Usually at least 2.
Okay.
Yep. And this trick was the ultimate one that took me forever, but I had to prove a point with this. And that's that old guys can learn new tricks. And everyone's doing bike flips. So, boom.
That's
Man, I don't think age is an issue here.
Yeah.
You can quit worrying about that.
Yeah. So that trick was, that was a quest. I just was on a mission for that trick. The bike flip. When I finished, I took the last 5 days off. I haven't rode. I had bruises all over my wrist right here from the handlebars smacking them.
Oh.
Like I did training like a ramp rider would do. I just stood stationary and flipped the bike within my hands, got comfortable catching it. And by the time I was done with it, I never missed the handlebars. I just kept falling to the side. And then finally I started analyzing the videos when I did hit it. And I was like, all right, I'm more upright. I'm this axis. And as soon as I started analyzing it, I started hitting the bike flip a lot.
Wow.
So
That's sick.
that trick sucks to learn.
you travel with a lot of bikes. I remember when I saw you, you had 3 bikes. You had the one you were on, you were holding one with your hand, and someone else
Yeah.
was holding your other bike. Why?
Well, those at Woodward, some of them were my kids' bikes.
Oh,
Okay, I had my ramp bike and my flat bike. You know, I usually flew to California for, you know, old school, and I never bring my ramp bike. And I've always borrowed people's bikes and I go and ride, but I've got a ramp bike and I just wanted to ride some park. I mean, I'm a 80s guy. I love every type of riding.
Yeah.
And I, you know, so I got my flat bike and my park bike basically.
Okay.
I think you said you had your brakeless and your brake bike too.
I do have a brake bike here at the shop that I ride. So I can still do, like when I do shows, if you get a shitty spot, I can still do all the pinky squeaks and funky chickens and all the decades and shit. So I'll get on that bike at a show to drag it out. Like sometimes I do shows by myself and you got to do a half-hour show. You got to have some other tricks.
Yeah, right.
And then I was doing shows on cruise ships for a while, and I was doing a 45-minute, almost like a stand-up comedy flatland show, which really was tough.
Yeah.
And I had just a wheel with the pegs on it because I can do that rolling and jump on the wheel. I was doing brake tricks. I was doing, you know, brakeless tricks, but I'd start the show off doing like hopping tricks and be like, you know, yeah, I started this back in the 80s to pick up chicks. I look pretty cool, don't I? You know, and it's like, but it worked, you know what I mean? So I definitely still like having a brake bike because there's shit I like to do that I'm not going to do in contests, but I still like doing those tricks.
Yeah. Yeah. There's certain tricks I like doing. In fact, the tricks that I don't like, I just tossed them, you know, because certain tricks I like this. I like the brakeless stuff that's flowing. Even rolling tricks, you know, spinning on the front wheel, whatever, tricks that flow that have a really good feeling. But like the backwards bar ride, that never felt good to me, man. That was like,
I love that trick.
Really? I hated that.
A big parking lot. I love it. I don't like it in small spaces, man.
Yeah.
Or when people are around me and I got to worry about who's behind me and shit, it sucks. But that's been one of my staples for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, don't see very many people doing it.
there's not a lot of people doing it. But one of the coolest tricks I ever did, and I haven't pulled it, is I've done backwards bar ride and pivoted on the handlebars to forward cross foot. But there's no way in hell I'm riding out.
Wow, that's freaky.
Yeah, I had to jump off. Trevor can ride, he can do cross-footed forward bar rides and ride out, but that squat down with your legs crossed to jump down is like, hell no.
Here was an interesting thing. We were talking the other day, and you said you run a 19.5-inch top tube.
Correct.
And a 14-inch rear end.
Correct.
Now, 14 is from the center of the axle to the center of the crank, correct?
Right.
Mine's 13.5, my S&M.
Yeah, that's short.
Yeah.
That's what most people
that
ride.
I actually had, my back end is more freestyle than yours.
Yeah, there you go. See, here's the thing. Here's the big problem I had. I was all front wheel rider for a long time. The leaning over and hunching over and everything else, my back went out on me. I've herniated my disc with motocross and snowboarding. So I've had some bad issues. And when I ride front wheel, for whatever reason, the way you lean and everything hurts my back. The thing I found about back wheel is I'm more upright and I don't have any back issues when I ride back wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've noticed with like back wheel, for example, is when I do like the dump truck and I put the bike behind me and I'm rolling on the back wheel on the underside, if I have a shorter chainstay and I still ride a high seat post in comparison to most, because I'm old school, my seat will drag. But with the longer back end, that just puts the bike up higher and the seat post further away. So for my style of riding, the longer back end makes sense, you know, and there's a lot of really big tech parts to the design of my frame that nobody has.
Yeah.
Like I've designed my frame around some really crucial issues that I have as try to ride anybody else's frame, and it's just shit compared to what mine is.
Yeah.
Not to brag, but it's geared towards my riding. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you ride your foot on the inside of your frame on the back, the welds come into the dropout and you have like that 1/4 inch of the round tube that's on your dropout in the back. Mine are flat. The tube's on the inside. So when I've got my foot there, I'm not pressing up against the tube. I'm pressing up against flat metal. So I don't have that pain that goes into the side of my foot.
Yeah,
know?
right.
And then
I
the
get
other
it.
thing is I tapered the bottom. When you're coming into the back dropouts, the tubes are wide at the top and then they come in and they taper in. So I actually on the top tube created, when I do pivots, I have more clearance for my toes to clear the frame. There's little tech things that I did with my frame that just make a better difference for my riding.
Yeah. I think most, well, I don't know about what it is today, but I think most ground riders that are pretty committed to their riding are a little bit on the OCD side.
Yes, totally.
'Cause, I mean, I break down everything. First thing is I look at the surface, and if there's just a little wave in it, I know where it is. Any parking lot I ride a lot, you know. And Joe Sickman, I think he's kind of like, he's like leading the pack on OCD.
Yeah.
He was telling me he reports to somebody when he rides, he fills out a graph and the guy reports back and tells him how he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And I was
Marty.
like, man, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah, he does. Marty Copa coaches him, and Joe's completely a different breed.
Yeah.
He's just out of his mind. He's
That's
actually
what I like about him though.
Yeah, he's quite brilliant in his own right. You know, he's completely nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first met him online, we were talking, he just sit there and you could see the wheels turning and he's listening to what you're saying and he's dissecting it into like a million pieces. And then his answers were like perfect. He didn't stutter, you know, but he never interrupted, he just waited. And so we started talking about that. And yeah, he was fascinating. I love Joe.
Yeah. And the whole time he's talking to you, he's also making memes about you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I thought this was really cool. Well, I was talking to Todd Lyons about.
Okay.
I was riding the big fat Mike Buff bike.
Yeah, C stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing freestyle on it, and then he was talking to me about maybe riding for him or doing a bike or something like that. And I said, man, you know, these bikes are fun to do freestyle on. And he's like, and he said freestyle. He goes, yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, you know, on big bikes. And yesterday or a couple of days ago, I had this guy named DZ, right? DZ?
Yeah.
DZ, who is a really prominent wheelie guy. I mean, insanely smooth, right? And he goes, hey, I'm getting into the freestyle on the big bikes. Can you give me any advice? And I thought, man, that's so cool that you can see it. I mean, Jacob Santos is doing rock walks. So
Yeah.
these guys that are really good on these big bikes are starting to flow into freestyle, you know? And I just thought that was super cool to see that. Just another aspect of freestyle.
Yeah.
On a bigger
The
bike.
big bikes are cool. I mean, you've got like Gabe Weed has done the stuff on Volker's bike where he was doing all those decades and all his tricks.
Yeah.
I've done stuff on the mountain bikes, you know, big bikes, and I've done the pedaling death truck on them, and I've done bar rides on them, and I've done shit like that because it's just a challenge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of cool to get out of your comfort zone and try something different. It's not what I'm going to do every day, but it's definitely fun.
Yeah. Well, you know, it taught me that, I mean, I used to think just like brakes, I thought, you know, riding without brakes, I thought those big bikes were dumb. Mike Buff would say, oh, we're just a bunch of guys riding. I'm like, well, that sounds boring, you know, but you can do a lot of stuff on those and it gives you a totally different vision of what's going on with those bikes. And then you go to a 20-inch, that's a whole nother thing. A 22 is a whole nother thing, you know? So I've kind of accepted the fact that I'm probably going to have like 10 bikes and I'm going to be traveling like you with 3 of them. And so I have one for this, one for that, one for this, but you know, what the hell?
The way to do it. I mean, think about it. The RL22 might as well have been a 22-inch bike. That thing was massive.
Yeah.
That bike was huge.
I was going to ask you, just in terms of the AFA, like what are your kind of future goals or what is your plan with it, do you think, in the next 5 years? Are you looking to grow and expand?
Well, here's the thing, you know, the AFA is kind of like, obviously I'm passionate about the sport. I love it. I don't know where I'm going to be competitively in a few more years, but I want to keep doing the AFA. I want to stay involved in the sport, and this is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
The problem is the European scene and the Japanese scene have taken over. I mean, they've absolutely annihilated it. But there's still the American scene, and there's a lot of riders out here. And, you know, we see fluctuations in people showing up. There's like, one year we'll have a bunch of guys who show up, and you got some old schoolers who come out of the woodworks. And then I don't know if they get discouraged or they get just reality of life. You can't keep doing it. And they just, you know, stop. But it's really dependent on, I mean, if I can keep the people coming, you know, I mean, obviously I don't want to be paying out of my pocket. I've got some really good sponsors. I've got an incredible sponsor this year who really wants me to push it. And I'm not going to say who it is, but the bottom line is he feels that BMX saved his life. He would have ended up in jail or on drugs if it wasn't for BMX. So anything he can do to contribute to keep this sport alive in America and possibly, you know, get kids involved is going to be something he wants to do. So he's throwing me chunks of change. The problem we have is Flatland is so far advanced now that it's discouraging.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I know how that feels now. I didn't understand it before, but now I get it.
Well, you have the instant gratification scenario. There's a million skate parks and a million kids riding park. A kid can get a bike, go to the park, and he can learn a 360 pretty quickly. And that's going to be gratification. To go out and learn a hang five takes them months, and they just don't have the discipline.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of sucks. So it's like, my hope, and this is where I was talking to him about it, is like the old school guys, for example. If I can attract the old school guys to come to my events, and they've got a son who, you know, could get into it, that's where I could get some people in. You know, it doesn't have to be that we're the best, you know, riders in the world or whatever on the Olympic level if we're supposedly going to go there. But we can have people who ride and, you know, like have fun. And like my dad used to ride and now I ride, and it's cool. And like, I think there could be a lot of evolution in that aspect of it. So it's like, for me, you know, getting to talk with someone like you and getting your people to see AFA could potentially get a couple other guys to come out of the woodworks, you know? And that is like, that's kind of where I like to put a lot of focus, because I feel like it's going to help. The other big thing that I do, and I've been criticized for it, which I find ironic, is the beginner class. You know, people are like, nobody wants to watch it. Just go straight to the experts and call it a day. But I'm like, you know, we got to get these kids out here who are going to, they learn to ride no-handed. You got to motivate them. You got to get them excited. And we showcase them, because back in the day, it was like, we go to a contest, you get your picture taken, 3 months later, it shows up in the magazine. You know, I don't know who was running those magazines back then. They didn't do them quick enough.
Yeah.
So anyways, but you know, the thing was, it was like you wait and you wait and you wait, and there was your motivation. So you had 3 months of anticipation.
Yeah.
Here, it's on Instagram or Facebook today. Your anticipation's over. You didn't get a whole lot of response because it's just basic, you know, and it's hard to stay motivated. So it's like getting to these contests, and we're live streaming it, and these kids get to be seen by everyone watching my event, is a big motivation. And I've brought some riders into the scene that are very prominent now, like Austin Liberta. He came in as an expert, and he's told me like the motivation he got from coming to my events is why he got so hungry for it. And now he's like one of the best American pros.
Yeah.
You know,
Cool.
And it's just, I'm hoping I can keep getting people involved. I mean, if it gets down to where I've got 10 people showing up, I can't do it.
You know, you said people were criticizing because you wanted a beginner class, right?
Right.
The funny thing is, and this is a fact of life, the beginner class is what supports the industry. It's not the pros. It's the beginners that are buying bikes and learning it and getting into it. Then they move into a better bike, and eventually they get up there at the top. But, you know, it's they're such a massive part of the success or of the sport evolving.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. It's like, as a pro, we're already there. we already get our bikes for free. We already get our shit. We're making money. We're doing it daily. These are the guys who are hungry, who want to be us. And they're the guys who are going to invest into it until they get to the level that someone gives them shit. So yeah, that is the industry. If we don't have them, where are we?
How many guys in the world can ride as good as you? What, 20, 10, 5?
I don't know. I hate that number.
Okay, let's go really crazy and let's say there's 100. Well, you don't have an industry with 100 people.
Yeah.
Won't happen.
Everybody
Even if
made
they're buying their bikes.
Right. We've already made it though. That's 100 of us that already made it, and we're not out buying shit. We call up, and I hate to say it like this, but we call up a place. Most people will hook us up because they're like, "Oh shit, I know you. Here you go." And like, we're not.
That's not an industry.
Right.
It's important because kids need to idolize guys like you, see you ride and go, man, I want to do that. But that's the birth of it right there, is when the guy starts into the sport.
Well, we go back 35 years. You are my idol. Like, swear to God, dude, I was like obsessed. I'm like, I have got to be that guy one day. That's what I chased, was being R.L. Osborn.
That's cool.
Well, maybe we've changed positions, because I would really love to be able to ride as good as you. I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Your contribution to the sport, no matter where you're at today with riding, is what inspired a lot of us. And it definitely is what inspired me to stay with it. I mean, the passion I got from it was just from pretty much you and Martin were the two guys that I was just like, there's nobody better on the planet. Those are the greatest people ever.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. I sincerely.
I mean, who else raced the goddamn horse on TV?
Yeah, it's fun.
There is rumors of a UCI event this year that will be like an American ranking system. And that would actually create a Team America, which would actually be the first steps in being able to say we're trying to organize for the Olympics. Because the biggest problem we have with the Olympics, for example, is we don't have women. So there has to be a women's team to compete with the men's team for an Olympic team.
Yeah.
So we need more women in freestyle, which is going to then allow this sport to evolve into the Olympics. But if this sport does, the benefit of it is all of a sudden you have a new direction of hunger. People are now hungry because I want to be an Olympic athlete. And now there's a dream, and it legitimizes it, and it could evolve the sport to get huge again.
Yeah.
But the problem is the discipline and time it takes to get where everyone's at now. I mean, I don't even know if the kids in Japan go to school. Like, they're just, it's freaking ridiculous. Like, you got 9-year-old kids doing tricks that I still haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
I saw an 8-year-old girl that could kick my ass. 8 years old, man, and she's doing all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just mind blowing. And I've got my 3 kids. They got into it. They learned a good amount of stuff, but they're nowhere near that level. And they have the best bikes and the best opportunities and the best riding spot, for God's sakes. And they just aren't getting there. And then, you got places like that where they have they've had essentially like Japanese championships, and all these things, and they've hyped it up. We haven't had that. Yeah. We haven't had the who's number one American rider, like the AFA is the closest thing we've had to it. And the winner was me one year, and then Dub from Canada the other 3 years, and then, I mean, it's kind of like, it's hard to say that that's a real ranking for an American scene. They have their country specific events.
So let's clarify real quickly. UCI is a European association.
UCI is the Olympic Committee organization.
Oh, okay.
United Cycling,
Okay, so who's putting on all the ground contests you see in Europe?
FIS is a lot of the stuff in Europe. FIS is the biggest thing, and that's French International Sports Extreme. So Matthias and Alex Dumoulin are behind a lot of the FIS events when they started, and they have evolved into a global thing. But they are UCI, which is Olympic Committee essentially. Okay. And they have, Japanese championships. They've had the British championships. They have Hungarian. They have all these countries have had this. We haven't had it.
Mhm.
You know, Feast came to Denver 5 years ago, and they just didn't get the response that they got in Europe. And that's because everybody here is worried about, well, you can't do it here because of lawsuits. You can't do this because we're Sue Happy America. And in Europe, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So it didn't really go over well, and they didn't come back.
Right.
But to get, Feast involved, the guy who's in charge of it is working with someone. I'm not able to say because it's still not announced, but the guy who's doing it is working with them, and they're trying to get this event in June that will be an official UCI event. And it would actually give an American ranking status.
Wow.
Which is why I'm training so hard, because I want to be third behind Terry and Matt.
So, I was saying while you were talking, there's something really good about competition, which I don't have now, is that it gives you a reason. It gives you something to shoot for. It pushes you. You know what I mean? And that was always very motivating for me. So competition is it's a good thing. I know that you can also ride for respect amongst your friends or whoever you're riding with, and that's a big thing too. But there is a good side to it. I mean, there's a lot of good sides to competition. But
well, the thing, I can tell you quite honestly, the last year and a half when we weren't able to really do the contest, my motivation went down drastically.
Wow.
I was getting kind of over it. And then I did those online video contests, and they took off, and it motivated me, but it was still hard because I'm like, when am I ever going to see people in person again? Because obviously video, we can pull anything. And then we went and we did the Battle in the Rockies. And after Battle in the Rockies, my energy level just quadrupled. I was like, I am so motivated and so excited. And I scheduled all the events for 2022 right after the contest. I'm like, we got to get this shit back together. We're getting the band back together, and we're going to town. And everybody I'm talking to is super motivated, and we finally got Terry back. He's back on the top, and Terry's now competing with my AFA, which is huge because he was kind of out of it for a while and he wasn't competing with it. And then Matt is he's a show writer, but he's still obviously one of the best.
Matt.
And he, Wilhelm.
Okay.
And he finally decided to come and compete at Battle in the Rockies. And I mean, the battle between him and Terry was hands down one of the best battles I've seen at my events.
Yeah.
And I've had people from all over the world, because every year I fly people in for Battle in the Rockies. I paid for someone to come from Europe. And I mean, the motivation level is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to drive the sport. I mean, Instagram's great, and a lot of people crack on me because I post all the time. And I'm like, I don't really give a shit if people see my riding, because, I'm not trying to hide my tricks. I'm excited. I'm genuinely thrilled when I learn something new.
Yeah.
And for me, something new may be the same trick with a different ride out or a different ride in, or my left foot instead of my right foot. I mean, but to me, it's a new obstacle that I overcame, where you got guys who they're very, very, very focused on one run.
Yeah.
Because European riders and Japanese riders, you go to a contest, they do a contest run, and they, let's say, have battles and they have to do 2 more runs. They're going to do the exact same run.
Right.
10 times. They're not going to do a different run. And for someone like me, even at Battle in the Rockies, I had 4 battles, basically. I did 4 different runs. I had all different tricks every time. And to me, that's what's cool, is being able to just have a variety of tricks.
Right.
But, I mean, the competition motivates you and it pushes you, but not being in competition allows you to progress in weird ways and learn. Like I said, I have enough tricks to do 4 different runs, where competition does get very focused. So from a progression standpoint, competition can be bad in a sense, because it stalls everyone from pushing super hard because they want to dial a run.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's that's where off season comes in and things like that. But it's a double-edged sword. You can't really tell what's going to do it the most. Some guys are definitely in it for ego, And as someone who's been in it this long and seeing the people come and go over the years, you have a guy who shows up and actually absolutely dominates this field, wins everything, and then he's gone 2 years later.
Yeah.
He wasn't in it for the right reason. He was in it because he wanted to be world champion. He got beat by somebody finally, and he just disappeared, you know? And it's like, that's not the way it should be, you know?
I agree with everything you're saying. There's a whole nother thing though. And it's like you and Pete Brandt and Dennis McCoy and Matt Hoffman and all these guys that are in their 50s and on top is very motivating for me. It's very motivating for me to keep going because I can see it's possible. You know what I mean? And at this age, I don't have, there's very few things in this world that gives me the thrill of pulling off a new trick or just coming close to it or learning it, there's that rush that comes with it is hard to replace.
You can't explain it to people, but there is something about that chasing that goal and constantly overcoming a goal is like incredible. I mean, everybody's got such a mundane scenario. They go to work, they do the same job every day, they come home, they do whatever. If we're out here and we're chasing something that should be physically impossible, and we're, it may take us a week or month, or it may happen in a minute, you never know. But whatever it is, that thrill and that sensation you get from that, I've never found anything that gives me that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I mean, I was thinking the other day, tell me a sport that has guys that are 50 to 60 years old that are just ripping.
It doesn't exist.
What other sport?
Yeah.
Maybe skateboarding. I don't know.
People retire in their early 30s typically.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just proud of that. See guys like you and the other guys that I listed breaking barriers in their 50s.
Yeah.
Not only do I think that's amazing because I know how difficult it is, but it's to me, it should be amazing to the world that you're not dead at 40. You're not dead at 50. You can still do these things, It's really setting a whole new standard, as far as I'm concerned, of living once you start to get older.
The evolution of accidents are incredible.
Oh man, it's insane.
I love accidents.
It's like, it's the best thing in the world and it's the worst thing in the world. But
yeah, because then there's times you fall in and you pull something totally obscure, and then it just never happens again. And you're like,
yeah,
I just did it.
Yeah.
I know it's possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, here, I'll show you this real quick because you asked if that was a pickup. I drove that car today, and this is a vinyl wrap. This is just for fun, obviously. I'll show you this, but this 1960 Ranchero I picked up for $1,800. The guy rollered the paint on. It was terrible, and the car is great, but the paint was shit. So when I got it, I'm like, I'm just going to wrap this and make it a cool car.
Yeah.
And now I drive it every day, and it's got a bumping stereo and everything else, but here's the car.
Oh yeah.
Wow, look at that thing, man.
That's sick.
So, and I used to do motorcycles, like I know you did too, and now it's just all about cars. So, but I mean, this is all vinyl wrap. This ain't paint.
Really?
Yep. Doing the two-tone is really difficult, but it kind of has that like old Corvette indentation look.
I was just going to say, it looks like a 57 Corvette kind of.
Yeah, that indentation is what I love. And it's like this kind of area right here, like these kind of wrap around corners. There's not anybody in town that can wrap that shit in one piece,
Really?
And that's what I love is I can.
That's sick.
That's cool, man.
But yeah, that's
anything else you want to add to this, or we're going to be done?
No, man, I think it's good. It's good talking to you, having a good conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it, man.
Actually, here's one cool thing about the Tinted Dome is that banner right there.
Yeah. That's what I was looking at.
That thing is going to be worth gold one day because every person who's ever rode this place has signed that.
Oh, really?
And this has everything from Marty Copa, Dominic Nicoli and Dub. And I mean, people from all over the world have been here. And it's kind of funny that my tint shop's turned into a destination riding spot. I'm like,
right.
It's not as big as it looks on camera, guys.
Yeah. How big is your garage? What's the measurements?
For usable space, it is about 39 length and about 31 width for
Okay.
usable flatland riding.
Yeah.
Obviously more space, but I got toolboxes and shit like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I have in usable space. And here's all these are some of my pro model frames that I had throughout the years.
Wow.
But this one in particular, let me grab this. I'll show you this. You'll dig it. This is back to the Redline life. If you look at this, it's a double top tube.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
wow.
Right.
So I kind of did like the Redline styling on the area
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
but then it's, it's modernized and it's got the tucked upper bottom tube. So I got clearance for front wheel and
Yeah.
it's pretty sweet. It's a long bike too. This is a 19.1 with a 14 rear.
Yeah.
But here's what I was talking about on my bottom. If you look at my dropouts, see there's no tube sticking out on this side.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
It's totally flat.
Nice.
So I put the tube to the inside.
That's
Makes a
cool.
huge difference
Yeah.
because my foot hurt. The inside of my foot would hurt from bumping that tube on the frame.
See, this is why people start rider-owned companies, which you think screwed everything up, and you're doing the same thing.
Okay, I took bikes for free for years, and finally I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm too old to give a shit. I want it the way I want it because I don't know how
Right.
many years I got, I mean, yeah, it's the, but I'm at a different level.
I love it. That's your excuse. No,
Yeah,
that's the thing though, is you know what you want. And you're like, how can they not make a bike this way? Who's running this thing?
Yeah.
this is geared towards my style of riding with my height because I'm 6 foot and I'm like, you take a Japanese guy who's 5'2", he's gonna hate it. So, all right, man. Well, I'll let you guys go. I'm gonna probably ride my bike.
Yeah, stay here. That's what I'm
What-
about to do.
Wait a minute. What time is it there? It's like what?
It's only an hour ahead.
So what time is it here?
12:20.
Yeah.
That kind of early for you?
It is, but we close at 3 and I'm already done for the day. So it just leaves the time.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, and I'm motivated, talking about bikes for so long.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So-
Well, I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
on.
Great talking with you, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some of the axis. That's what we got to learn on. We got to figure out what we have to do is like weigh our legs and our torso and everything so we can figure out
There you go.
mathematically where the access is on the bike, right?
Exactly. That is literally, it's that simple. Once you do that, everything's easy from there on.
Your legs too heavy, man. Your calf's got to shrink. You can't do that trick.
There you go.
All right, James, man. Thanks for spending this time with us. It's great talking to you.
That's good talking, and we'll see you later.
Okay,
All right.
man. Have a good one.
See ya.
Yep.
All right, guys. So that concludes our interview with James McGraw. Again, big thank you to James for coming on, spending part of his weekend with us.
3 hours,
Yeah.
3.5 hours.
2.5,
We started at 9.
10.
Oh, I thought you said it was 12:24.
Where he is.
Ah,
Yeah.
big difference.
But for me, it was really cool talking with him because I always watch his stuff, his videos on Instagram. And I mean, as you guys saw from what we watched in today's video, it's pretty mind blowing what he's doing, no matter what age he is. But I think the fact that he is in his 50s, right?
Yeah, at 51, turning 52 in April,
Yeah,
I think.
I think
Yeah.
that just adds a level to it, makes it even that much cooler. So
Yeah.
thanks again to James for coming on. Anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, that was a great interview. I mean, some interviews just really fly,
Yeah.
and interesting guy and typical freestyle ground rider, OCD for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great interview. Gave us a lot of that axis thing we're gonna have to figure out. Gave us a lot of good tips on how to do some of those spinning tricks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just great talking to him.
A lot of good insight on those tricks, I would say, like insider tips, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
It's cool that he's in charge of the AFA or running that, and he's keeping it alive. I think it'd be cool if we could work with him together on that to help promote upcoming events or whatever. Because I think, I think that's kind of like a pillar or a crucial part of the freestyle community, and we want to grow that.
Seems like everybody in the industry should be promoting his contests when they
Absolutely.
come up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I see the BMX races like in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and just around the country, a lot of the Midwest. And there's thousands of people there watching the events. And I don't see why freestyle couldn't have that many people, if not more,
Yeah,
you know? So
definitely.
hopefully we can team up with him or help him however we see fit. Other than that, if you guys have other people you want to see us interview, be sure to leave a comment about that below. We're going to obviously do more of these. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And other than that, I think we're going to head out, maybe do some riding of our own.
Yeah, have some lunch, then go ride a little bit.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks as always, and we will see you guys next time.
See you guys.
Peace.